Hey, good morning everybody. How you doing? This is Steve. Well, happy Monday. No, I'm not being sarcastic. This is the first step for part 2 of our Sunday evening blog. We're going to be shooting episodes or chunks of this throughout the work week. Excuse me. This is going to be part 2. This is basically milling and fabrication. Now, before we can really start anything, I told you last Sunday in the blog, the tutorial video, before I do anything, I'm going to knock my spoiler board down. Okay, I've got some old cutout marks in here. I want this surface uniform all the way across. Now, the one thing I have not done is under the gantry, hopefully I can still stay in the camera, these two panels have never been milled, and I can only mill about 5 or 6 inches of this one. Basically what's going to happen is these have been milled down, oh god, at least 200 thousandths. And what I'm going to end up doing is, in order for this to work and everything to sit flush, I've also now got to mill up into, I generally use this as an offload table. I just set parts over here. What's going to happen is when I go in and I mill this down level with the rest of the board, it's now going to do a makeshift fence, basically on my y-axis. Now, we've told you before, I'm going to walk you through it. We're not going to fire the machine up. It's Monday. I don't want to hear this thing, okay? Until later. Need more coffee. Alright, what we're going to do is initialize your machine. Power it up in the morning. If you've got a pneumatic lift assist, get your air pressure to your machine and all that, alright? Initialize your machine back to the starting corner. And then on my CNC controller, I can 0 X and Y, or you can G92 X0 Y0. Alright? What we'll do is we'll run the gantry from the starting point of 0. We'll run it all the way up, slow it down towards the end. You don't want your gantry crashing. Write that number down. I told you again and again, we know that the y-axis maximum travel is 50.249 inches, so it's 50 inches. I also know that my x-axis is almost 39. Now, I told you the width on my x-axis of my physical spoiler board is only 37. Now, to put this challenge into a better picture, what's going to happen is we're going to end up having to hang the material over, or I can cut it exactly at 37. We also showed you yesterday that we had to program it. I programmed it on the X. At VCarve Pro, you're going to program horizontally. I'll open a new copy, and then I'll have to rotate the entire image just like the fireplace manual tutorial. I've got to rotate that image 90 degrees, recenter everything, and then recut all the tool paths. Because the 48 isn't going to fit this way. I wish it would, but it won't. So, we're going to have to secure the best we can. Now, the other thing I told you that I'm thinking of doing, and just I think to keep the job safe from slipping, I'm going to probably go under the machine and I'm going to screw up through the table. Not that I want to, but I'm going to. And that way there, I can catch it from underneath. Just a couple spots, and then I'll have all 4 corners screwed down to the spoiler board. That's going to basically be this morning after I've had more coffee, okay? But that's going to be the first process. The next one, we're going to go through, we're going to grade the material that we bought. We told you we're doing this at a 2x10 KD. It's 9.5 wide. We're going to have to rip a little whisker off a side to get that bevel out. Then we're going to need to glue and clamp panels 50 inches. I will probably get 37, 37.5, 38. If I get 38, that means I've got to overhang my spoiler board, my top spoiler board, by like a ½ inch. I'm not crazy on doing that either. It's kind of floating in dead space, okay? But that is going to be our first step, okay? From there, we'll probably just go over, we'll talk about the material a little bit. I'm not going to waste your time making you watch the spoiler board mill out, or we'll do some stills, and you can get a good idea of what we're doing without watching hours of video. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, hang on. We will be right back. Okay? Hey everyone, we're back. All right. Well, I told you yesterday on the first segment, we were going to run this table out. I did, and I'm not going to make you guys sit through. We'll probably do a little bit of the milling process when it comes down to the physical sign rendering of the 2.5 dimensional on the front of the welcome sign. Now, I went down another 125 thousandths. We stripped the spoiler board down nice and clean. I told you that I was going to max this out, and I did. So we end up having, like I told you, this is going to be used as my fence. Yeah, these are no good without these, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, I'm 200,000 strong. I've got a plenty high enough fence. Now what I've done this morning before it started raining, I ended up taking and I cut all my material down to 51 inches exactly. Granted, I have 50.249 inches of travel on the Y, and I have 39.230 on my width. My spoiler board tops are 37. Now this is where, in my case, I really need to pay attention and I need to be careful here. What I did, and I told you yesterday, run your Y-axis up, write down your maximum Y-axis and X-axis travel. All right, 25 inches is halfway. I'm not worried about the .249. We're not quite that close, okay? What I did was, in the router right now, there's a small 60-degree V-bit. I initialized my machine, I zeroed out my X and Y starting corner, X0, Y0. I ran it up exactly 25 inches and then I just jogged the router on the X-axis to about the middle. I ended up dropping the bit in to the table maybe 20 thousandths. This is MDF, so it's really soft. I went over to my CNC controller, I turned my router on while the bit was just a titch in. Now I wouldn't try this with an end mill or something crazy. I just wanted a perfectly straight line for exactly where the halfway spot was on the table. I took my controller that I got from US Router Tools. I basically jogged my X-axis across at a medium speed, brought it back again, got everything up out of the way. I've got a perfectly straight line. This is the exact dead center of my Y-axis travel. Half of 37, we made a mark. I threw a speed square into my T-slot track, marked it. 18 and a half, 25. What I will end up doing, things can always go a little crazy on you. I'll end up either touching top, right at that center, dead center. This is the absolute dead center of the machine, or I'll use my laser crosshair. Go back to your CNC controller, click on your X and Y, those two little green boxes. It's going to give you a dimension. Write that dimension down and put it, I'll take a Sharpie right on my shop wall, okay? That is the true absolute dead center of your machine, okay? Now for this job, God only knows I'm going to need it. So, we bucked up the material. Let me just bring this, please bear with me for a moment. Let me bring this over. We told you we're doing this out of 2x stock. Well, I wasn't going to make you sit through me running it through the DeWalt. I got a big DW 735 that I love. Every piece of material is going to have a little cut to it. It's going to have a high and a low spot. I just took the curse off it. If, again, how do we function without these? We went from 1.5 down to 1.450. Okay, we've taken minimal material off. Just a couple light passes. I wanted to take any hump off, and I wanted to take any cup off the bottom. Now, this is where things start to get very interesting. We're going to do the layout. Now, we've got two different grades of material. A few knots are acceptable, but we have to remember that the fascia of this job is 2.5 inches. Now, what I can tell you is, by having this little makeshift fence on the spoiler board, I need one edge, and we'll end up putting a straight edge across this. I got to make sure that when I glue and clamp these panels up, that they are just that they are straight right across. Now, this is how close we're cutting this job. And we're going to tell you why all of this is so important. I'm already exactly 37. Now I've got to take and run these through my I've got a small little Delta jointer, like a benchtop model. Had it for years, it works great. I've got to take and just take just a couple quick swipes. I want to make sure that everything's flat. I'm not worried about the radiuses on the side. because when we have this all together and it's attached to the spoiler board, we're going to use our spoiler board bit to mill it flat. I would suggest that you do the fascia side down so that you've only got to do one flip on the material, okay? We know we're 48 by 36. That is the sign's dimension. I know that I have 3 1/4. Where the heck's my pencil? Oh, the strap's falling down. Nice new apron. I've got a 3 1/4 inch radius in the corners. These are the actual fascia boards. I went with these because they're mainly clean white pine. I put an F on all my surfaces. I know that right here, there's going to be that big round focal piece. I don't want any knots in this, none. And the reason I tried to go with the cleanest pine that I could find is this is 2.5. The backside's only a 2-dimensional engraving. I'll probably use like an 1/8 inch end mill to do the hogging. On the V-carve function, you have like an area clearance tool you can select. Well, for the face, we're going to be using a 1/2 inch. We're going to wind it up and let it go to hog out the bulk of the material. I don't need it hitting a knot and exploding. We do not need to deal with that, okay? But I want to make darn sure that this round focal piece where the seam's going to be, I want to make sure that there's no knots, there's no indiscrepancies, there's nothing there that's going to louse up. If you had to, you could go back and you could fix the letters, and if I can remember, when we get to the finishing end of this and I start the finishing process, if something did break, I'll walk you through it at that time, okay? Now, we're 51 inches overall. We've got plenty of extra material. I was hoping that this was going to be close to 38, and I was going to be able to stage a 1/2 inch off of each side of the x-axis, but I'm not. We're cutting it this close. Okay, to give you an idea of how close, well, you know, it doesn't matter how many pockets you have, you never find your tape measure. All right? We're exactly at 37. That will probably go down at least 1/8 of an inch when I mill. Now, I'm not going to mill my ends where the clamps are going to go. I'm not even going to waste my time. I'm going to mill these two sides, and this one side, and this one side. My ends, I am literally cutting it this close on material, but I know I can do it because I've done crazy stuff like this before. To give you an idea, at 37 inches, we're going to be 36 inches. We're going to put in on the outside of the profile toolpath function with a 90-degree V-bit. I told you we're going to put a bevel 250 thousandths deep. Now, hopefully you can see this. This is, we'll say that this is your bevel that's going to go around. It's going to be 250 thousandths deep. You're going to do a 200, I'm going to do a 260 thousandths offset. So, right off the top, we're going to end up with that offset. We're going to lose another 1/2 inch. We have a 1/2 inch left over. There is literally going to be like a 1/4 of an inch after the end mill. So I have but no choice to go under this thing, screw it down, and secure it. Okay? I have no choice. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up burning through a couple end mills, I think, for the project, which I don't. I just use high-speed steel mills, $5-6 each. I'm going to have to slow it down, because I don't want to risk any blowouts on the edges or anything, because at this point we're going to have half a day into this between bit changes and milling and all the hogging out and whatnot. I don't want to risk on the cutout lousing something up, because now we've just lost all that time. And I'd rather go down, get more material, and rerun the piece, which we don't want to do that either, okay? But you guys hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take and I'm not going to make you sit through the gluing and clamping. Like I said, I'm going to run these edges, get everything marked up, run it through your planer first. If you've got a cup or a high spot, just take the curse off it. Like I said, I took 50 thousandths off a 1.5 inch thick board. I'm hoping that after I use my spoiler board bit to kind of act as a makeshift planer to plane this flat, I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to end up at the end of everything. I'd like to have at least 1 3/8 strong, 1 7/16 would really nice. But we'll see when we get there, okay? You guys hang on, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, okay, we're back again. So, we told you we told you in the last part, we've cut everything down. I've gone 51 inches. We're cutting it really close on the width. I am basically 37 and a half, I think, right now. One thing I wanted to tell you, mark up your fascias. Throw a big letter F on them. The other thing I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stand at this end of the machine. I was doing it on the other end though, but for the sake of the video. Move your boards around. If you got to take them, spin them, flip them, you're looking for, oh goodness, yeah. You're looking for the best seam you can get, okay? Because again, I told you we are cutting this very, very close. Okay, I got a big gap up that end. Move these around to get the closest gap. Once we have that, excuse me for 1 minute, I just got to step out of the camera. What we do is I take my best edges. I'm going to mark where I want everything to fall. You can number your panels 1, 2, 3, 4, left, right, whatever you want to do, okay? But mark your faces with an F. I run them through. This is just a little, it's a little porta cable. I've had this for years. Leave your outers alone because we need to keep as much material as possible. We're cutting the job that close. You'll mill your two inner boards on both sides. You will plane your inner boards on both sides, but on your outers you'll only do the one contacting edge. Clamps are going to go here, and this is your cutoff anyways. Not much of it to be exact, but that's basically all we do here. Okay. All right, everybody. Hey, well, these are the 51 inches. We've planed them, and I told you I'm not going to make you sit through me cutting a board or running them through that little porta cable planer. Okay. I would like a big upright one though, so I ain't got to bend over as much. But I know. Stop complaining. I have a workbench that I work off of with kind of an old piece of plywood where I let the glue drip. I don't let the glue all over the shop. I do, however, make sure that my surface that I'm working off of is clean at all times. I don't want the glue to build up, all right? We put our boards, we C-clamp them. I C-clamp the ends. I told you I needed to get one end as straight as humanly possible because it needs to sit up against this fence as tight as possible, all right? Well, by doing that, we clamp it. We use, here it is. Pardon me a moment. We're using Type-On 3. This is the waterproof glue. I believe that some of the guys out there who do, they build like their own dories, their little boats and kayaks. This is good stuff. So, these are going to be outside in the elements. So, that's why we opted for Type-On 3. Come tomorrow, what we'll do is we're going to take these clamps off. We set these aside, and ultimately we have a half a panel. We still have two more, okay? But we're going to show you what we've done there in just a moment. Alright, here's one of the primary panels right here. Now, we can see, I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera or not. We got some lines, okay? I went 4 inches off the end, and then 6 inches on every other one. What these are, and this is my own fault, I could have sworn I had clamps long enough to expand this. Now, what we did do again is I C-clamped my two separate pieces down, but before I did that, and I put the glue to them, I ended up running a Craig's jig slot. Now, I know that some people like Craig's jig, some people don't. Well, it's worked for me. I've done this before. And because of the way that we're going to assemble this and put the whole thing together, well, I know it will work, okay? So, come tomorrow, again, once this dries, I watched this seam suck right up. It pulled right in nice. Ample layer of glue, all set. Tomorrow, though, we do not want to leave the screws in here because what will happen, this is the back side, this is the fascia. When I go to run that spoiler board bit, granted, I'm only going to go probably 30, 40 thousandths just to level everything off, or I'll go as deep as necessary. What's going to happen, though, is when I go to drop, since these are the backs, they're strictly two-dimensional, when I go to drop that bit, well, that Craig screw comes close to the surface on the other side, bang, you hit one of them with your 60-degree V-bit, or whatever bit you may have, you're going to bust the tip of that bit, and you're going to be out, because they're carbide, you're going to be out $25, $30 or more, okay? So we will back the screws out tomorrow, set them aside, and we're going to put these in the machine and we're going to get these ready to use the spoiler board bit to basically plane them. Alright, this is going to kind of be, this will be the end of the setup for all this. From here, our next video, we're going to go into the physical milling. Now, as I told you, I believe in the Wednesday shout out, this video is going to be done in chunks. I may not have the entire project all together. Last week we gave you layout and design. Well, this weekend we're going to give you milling and fabrication. Well, this is part of the fabrication process, is setup and assembly, okay? So, if I don't have the actual milling video out until early Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, please be patient with me because it is a big undertaking and there's only one set of hands up here, okay? As always, guys, and ladies as well, thank you so much for your time, for following, and keeping an eye on what we're doing up in this little humble shop, okay? Alright, everybody, I hope you're having a great weekend with you and yours, as always, and stay tuned, there's more to come.